you want to learn, if you want to ask some really cool questions, then you can go there. All right, we're live. You can begin. So I'll just introduce you in a minute. Uh, first of all, thanks for coming, everyone. It's 7 o'clock in the evening, and we really appreciate you coming over here. Raunak is the founder of Ronny's Radio. He does some cool podcasts there. He has had insanely huge guests like Prakhar, Sid Warrior, Ankur Variku, and all of them. Perfect guy perfect guy to call up for a networking event, in my opinion. He is like really superb. I cannot describe him anymore. Uh, Over to you, Ronak.
That's a great intro, man. Thanks. I hope the session lives up to this. But yes, I think I have learned a few things in my attempts at networking, and I'm going to give you all my toolkits, everything that I have learned, and hopefully you can apply it in whichever context you think is appropriate. Because I'm going to try to make it more general, not just for like only podcasters, because I'm sure not all of you guys are podcasters. So you can apply these principles at any point of time when you want to connect with somebody who you think is larger than you, because that's really the issue, right? We think that we want to meet people who are elder to us, who are more successful, who have more money, who have more followers, and we think that, yeah, why will he connect with me? Why will he have a conversation with me? Or why will she talk to me? And that is exactly what we'll be addressing on how do you deal with that situation. Right. So, yeah, Viraj, we're live on YouTube, right? Okay, cool. I think we're good to go. So first, I'm going to start with the basics of networking, and the reason I have to start over here is because the word networking has got such a corrupted definition over time, that most people's idea of networking is completely messed up. And the reason for that partly is because of technology has changed, so the meanings of words have to change accordingly, as well as there unfortunately a few people who give out very wrong information. So first and foremost, what is networking not? Networking is not getting phone numbers. Networking is not getting email IDs. Networking is not getting business cards. It's none of that. It's not about getting data about people. You can get as much data about people all over the place, everywhere, everything, right? That's really not that hard with the kind of tools that we have. But just because you have somebody's information, that does not mean that they will connect with you and that you can have a meaningful interaction with them. So starting off with the basics of networking, the ultimate definition of networking or of a network that you have is a function of the number of meaningful interactions that you can have with people. Now that meaningful interaction can have a wide range of meanings itself. It can be like something as complex as sharing a business plan with like a potential venture capitalist, or it can be something as just sharing a funny meme or a joke on Twitter or on Instagram, right? Based on what equation you have with the individual. But it is always about meaningful interactions. You said something and you got a response in context to what you said, not random data, not random messages, not random cold emails. Cold emails is a part of networking, but it is not just the bread and butter. Also, guys, templates don't work. Like I'm sorry to break that myth, but templates just don't work, right? Cold email templates are not a good idea. If something is a template, it's because a lot of people use it, and if a lot of people use it, then the ones who you're sending an email out to, they're going to figure out that it's a template, and then the purpose is lost, right? So that is the basics of networking. What is it not? It is not about information or data. It is about having meaningful interactions with people. Second aspect of networking, which also often gets overlooked, is that you cannot network or you cannot build a good network without being a person of value. Spending time trying to connect with people is not a replacement of spending time trying to build yourself. Whatever your core skill is, be it for whatever reason, for a podcaster your core skill is having a good conversation. For an entrepreneur your core skill is building a good business. For a freelancer who's looking for a job or like a side gig, your core skill is being very good at the skill that you have. That is non-negotiable. You can try as many networking tools as you want, take tips, hacks, tricks, all of that, but nothing is a replacement of being a person of value. And the more valuable people you want to connect with, trust me guys, they have a lot of experience. They'll be able to easily figure out who is actually a person of value and who's not a person of value. So that is another key important aspect of networking, so called, is that you cannot, it is not a replacement of being a person of value. So these are like some ground rules that I wanted to lay off before we get into the strategies of actual networking. Once you've understood these basic rules in mind. Now we'll get into how you can actually apply it and how you start the process of connecting with, say, an Ankur Warikoo or a Prakhar Gupta or Sid Warrior or any of those, or like of those sort of people, right? Now, in my opinion, there are three aspects of this that you need to take care, and each aspect has two subparts as well. So at this point of time, I think if you guys could take a few notes, it will be helpful, just so that you can have a structure in mind. And if at all you require, you can also reach out to me. I'll share like a picture of it because I have it in front of me, right? So first aspect is of course your communication. Now when I say communication, I'm not just talking about your speaking skills, because that comes very late into a conversation. Your communication first and foremost is on the way you write. You have to be a good articulator. If English is your dominant language, you're lucky. You can use that very well. If English is not your dominant language, unfortunately, that does cause a few issues, but you'll have to figure that out for yourself. Ultimately, good communication matters. It's not about using big words or having a very high vocabulary, but you absolutely have to be able to express yourself clearly. See, people who you want to reach out to, if they're successful, they're always busy. And people who are busy don't have a lot of time to try to dissect the gold in the information that you're actually sharing with them. So whatever your request is, whether you're requesting for a job, for a podcast invite, for like pitching a startup, anything at all, you have to be clear, very absolutely crystal clear about what you're communicating. The second aspect of communication is your USP. And there are three kind of USPs which we'll be talking about. The first one in this context is why you. See, the question that a lot of times we have to answer, and it's slightly hard to answer, but it's better you understand this early on, is that what is your USP? It's not just about how good you are at what you're doing, but how can you communicate that in a way that makes the other person remember you? That okay, why should, it's not just about getting a podcast invite, or being pitched a business plan. Why should he reach out to you? Why should he connect with you? Why should he say yes to whatever it is that you're requesting from him? So the why you element is extremely important, and this is the first kind of USP which we'll be talking about. Why you? It is a question that everybody will be asking themselves when you reach out to them, no matter who the person is, right? So if you're reaching out to, let's say, Ankur Varku, he's going to ask himself the question, what is special about him that I'm going to reach out to him? There has to be that subtle flavor, and that flavor is very contextual. It can be through the way you write, it can be through the way you speak, it can be through the kind of content you create. Like sometimes things as subtle as having a very good headline for your email. All of these things are small indications on personal branding. How do I express who I am as a person, and why should someone connect with me? So that is the first strategy which you need to keep in mind, that you have to have clarity in your communication, and you have to have the first kind of USP, which is why you. Then moving on from that, most people will not respond to you in the first request, and that is just a reality of life. When they're busy, they have a lot of things to do, and they're not going to say yes to you in the first time. Then comes context, applying context to your communication. Now what happens is, with the platforms that we have today, with Twitter, with Instagram, with emails, there is so much noise that it's just very hard for people to remember you. So if you are trying to reach out to someone like a Prakhar Gupta, he has thousands and thousands and thousands of followers and subscribers. So like very often there's a high chance of you trying to reach out to him and your message never even reaching him in the first place, because how will he select? He must be getting 100 DMs in a day. How does he choose your DM? Here is where context matters a lot. Now, in context, I have one trick that I use, which I'm going to share, which is called the three impression rule. So, anyone who has experience with digital marketing will know that an impression means an instance where the other person, the audience, has read your name, or has read about you, or has some information about something that you have either written or posted. That is how I talk about it as an impression. So follow the three impression rule, which means that before you make an ask, just before you go and ask somebody for any request, be it a guest on your on your podcast, or be it for a job or anything of that nature, make sure that they have read your name at least thrice. It can be cross platforms, it can be once on email, once on Twitter, once on Instagram, anything like that is fine. But they have to read your name at least thrice. At least thrice, guys. Otherwise, it is very hard. It's very much it's very much possible for you to go in for a request, and the request just not making it through the noise. So context application is very important. And here we get into the other USP which I'll talk about, which is why them. Now everyone knows that if you're trying to reach out to somebody, you have to give them a reason on why you chose them. Everyone feels happy when they are chosen, even successful people, even rich people, even people who are way bigger than you, right? All creators have something like a soft side inside them where they want to know that why did this person think I am the appropriate person. Now, whether you're asking for a job, whether you're asking to pitch a startup, or anything that your request is, people want to know why you chose them. And this is where your ability to express meaningful compliments come in play. It's not just about random flattery. Oh, sir, wow, sir, I love your content, sir. Oh, you are so good, you are so smart. All of that jargon has no meaning. Right? People can see through that very easily. You have to be able to genuinely give a good compliment and at the same time express that, sir or ma'am, this is why I think you are the absolute spot on person for what my request is. I'll be great. I'll be very happy even if you don't say, even if you say no, I'm fine. But if you say yes, dude, this will be absolutely phenomenal. And having that as a goal in mind, having that as the standard in mind, this is what you want to communicate to them. That if so, you're absolutely on point. You are the perfect person who I want to reach out to, which is why they feel that they are special. And this is a very subtle psychological trick that also matters. So this is the second USP which I'll talk about, which is why them. The first USP was why you. The second USP is why them. Now coming down to the third strategy, which is on simple consistency. Now consistency is already it's spoken about so much by motivational speakers that honestly I don't have anything much to add. But just like everything in life, you have to be consistent. Most likely your initial requests are not going to be accepted. So over time, you have to keep trying, while keeping in mind you have to respect the attention and the time of the other individual. So don't get angry, don't get arrogant, don't get very irritating or annoying with your messages, but keep following up with them at their convenience. So a simple rule to follow over here is that every time you get rejected, treat that as a way to again follow up. So if you get rejected by somebody, don't say, okay, sir, no problem. Ask them, okay, sir, I totally understand. When can I follow up with you on this? And most likely they will give you an answer because people are not very comfortable saying no to people, right? So if they say no once to you, their quota is over. They don't want to hurt you anymore. So they will give you some answer. When I got Ankur Warikoo on the show, I had to follow up with him for 3 months, which is a very long time. But the reason I could do it is because every time he said no, I asked him, "Sir, when can I follow up again?" And he gave me like, Ronak, you try connecting with me after a month, and I did it. Then again after a month, again I did it, and then finally, like I got him on the podcast, right? So it took a while, but I always asked, "Sir, when can I connect with you?" Which brings me to my third USP, which is important, which is why now. Urgency is the mother of persuasion. If you can make somebody feel that this thing that you're asking them to do has to be done right now and right now itself, you are charging them to take action. So why now is a very important element in all your communication. So if in some or the other way you can express to them, and I understand this is not possible in all situations, in all contexts, but in some or the other way, if you can express to the guest that whatever request you are making for them is contextual, it is required, it has to be done right now itself, there is a certain advantage to record the podcast immediately, or there is a certain advantage for you to start working for them with respect to like a project that they are working on. So for example, suppose you're a freelancer. If you design websites and you're already aware that the person you're reaching out to is trying to design a website, you can add that element of urgency that, sir, I read your post on LinkedIn saying that you're looking for a web designer, and I am a great web designer, and I think you should hire me right now so that I can make a phenomenal website for you. And that is how you answer the question of the third USP, which is why now. So just a summary of all the three USPs. The first one is a part of communication, which is why you. Why are you the right person? The second aspect is a USP of context, which is why them. Why are they the right person? Why are you reaching out to them? And be honest and very appreciative of what your reason is. And third is is about consistency, which is the urgency USP, which is why now. Why is now the right time for me to act? Because if you don't have that level of urgency, they'll end up delaying it, and you'll be like, yeah, we'll do it some other time, or I'll get back to you. And we all know that they never really do get back because you're busy and they forget about you. That's just the way life is. But always focus on these three USPs: why you, why them, and why now. These are essentially the strategies which you can use to network with anybody who you want to reach out to. Now getting into a very underrated part, which is after the ask. Let's say you make your ask. Let's say you ask them to come to your podcast, or you ask them to come and watch your business plan or something, right? You make the ask. Now what do you do after that? Now there are two situations. If they say no, if they object, then you already know what the system is. You again follow up with them. You ask them, so when can I connect with you? And ma'am, when can I connect with you? And you try again. If they say yes, and you actually manage the request, you get whatever it is that you want from them. Maybe it's the time, maybe it's a job, maybe it's anything, right? The most important thing is this concept of greasing the wheels. Now, greasing the wheels means, see, like very often we have a very transactional nature in the way we deal with people. So we feel like, oh, I got what I wanted from you, so now I'm going to basically cut off all ties and act as if you don't exist. And that's not a very good attitude to have. If you genuinely value the people you're reaching out to, you have to maintain a communication with them. Somewhere down the line, in some or the other way, be it like you can choose the platform of your choice. So with Ankur Varuku, I normally use email because he uses email more efficiently. Like with Prakhar, I like he's a very close mentor to me, so I use WhatsApp and Instagram. With Sid, it's always Instagram or sometimes like it's Twitter or something, right? So that has to be chosen by you based on the context, but always grease the wheels. Talk to them, ask them questions, ask them for advice, share a joke with them. It doesn't matter, right? People are human beings. As successful as they are, they're still human beings. So talk to them like human beings and continue talking to them so that they feel that you've built a genuine relationship with them, which is the idea of networking, right? It's not about, just like we mentioned, it's not about numbers and data. It's about meaningful relationships, and all meaningful relationships, they have to last even after the ask is made, which is why you have to grease the wheels. Don't stop talking to somebody just because you got what you wanted from them. Even though you might not have a request in the future, doesn't matter. Keep talking to them, keep greasing the wheels. And second aspect is also you have to know when to stop asking. This is where I think sometimes like young kids make a mistake, is that they feel that okay, if I make one ask and he says yes, I'll just keep making ask over ask over ask and he'll keep saying yes. But people sometimes get uncomfortable with that as well. So like at least my suggestion would be, make sure that you are adding value first and then you're receiving like a request from them. Then again you add value, and then again you have something to request from them. Don't add value to them once and ask value for it twice, because it becomes a very complicated situation and you don't want to make somebody uncomfortable. Like especially if it's your first interaction with them, you want them to be extremely comfortable, extremely comfortable. If any of you guys have seen my episode like with Prakhar, the reason it did so well is because we were so comfortable with each other. We were so comfortable. I didn't make him awkward at all. He didn't make me awkward at all, which is why it's a phenomenal conversation. So your idea as well, even if it's not a podcast, is to make people very, very comfortable, even though you're a stranger and even though you have something to ask. So know when to stop asking. Both these aspects are very, very important when it comes to after making a request or after your request is gratified. Now comes the last part of my monologue. After that we'll take questions. Is possibly the most important part of networking, and I think a lot of people do get this wrong, or at least they don't understand this, is the importance of social proof. See, just like a startup, just like anything, right? Starting of everything is always difficult. So when you're starting to build your network from scratch, you'll have to put a lot of effort to get your initial people. But once you kickstart that flywheel, once you get a few interesting people, that will give you leverage to get even more interesting people now. So now if I want to get anybody and they ask me, can you share a link of your podcast, I share two links, one Ankur Varuku's video, one Prakhar's video, and they almost always say yes, because here comes the very deep psychological reason of social proof. Now the simplest way to understand social proof, I'm going to tell you a line, and this line is going to sound like a tongue twister, but every element of this line has meaning. So please guys, even if you're not taking notes, at least write this line down, right? People value people who are valued by people who they value. I already know how weird this sounds, but just pay a little attention to this, right? This is very, very important. People value people who are valued by people who they value. So, for instance, if you want to convince somebody to come on your show or whatever it is, all you need to do is make sure that they know that you have connected with people who they already value. So, for example, the way I'll give you an example, the way I in a way use this is that the way I connected with Sid is because Sid knows that I know Prakhar, and Sid and Prakhar are great friends, right? Of course, I have my individual like relationship with Sid as well, but he knows now there's like a burden of proof on my side, that if he knows that okay, if Raunak has got Ankur on the show, if Raunak has got Vinamra on the show, if Raunak has got Prakhar on the show, that means Ronak is good at conversations. And this is very subtle, it's very instinctive, it's extremely instinctive, but it is massively influential. And I'm just explaining it with the context of a If you start applying this with respect to getting jobs or freelancing opportunities, or like pitching a startup, you have no idea how important social proof is. Ask any venture capitalist and they'll always tell you finding your first VC is the most difficult. Once you get your first VC, it's very easy to get the next five, because now there is social proof on your part. That is why whenever you end your communication with the person you're trying to reach out to, make sure it ends on a high note, because people remember your the ends of your like of your communication. So if they remember you fondly, they will be more than happy to recommend you to other people. They'll be more than happy to just put in a word for you or to validate you, saying that, yeah, this guy is legit, you can have a conversation with him, it'll be great, or this guy, he knows what he's talking about. Even if they don't decide to invest in your startup, you can connect with them. Even if they don't decide to like they give you the opportunity for your job or whatever, they'll be very extremely happy to recommend you to anybody else. It works like magic. Social proof can do, it can make you free from the burden of networking. Literally, if you apply social proof very well, it's almost like you won't have to network anymore, because you've built your own network, which is like in a way self-sustaining. So it's like a flywheel. Once you get the flywheel in motion, once you connect with interesting people who value each other, you don't need to really network anymore, or you don't need to really put in that much effort as you had to in the initial days. So social proof is the ultimate magic weapon that you can use, which will help you dominate your network. Once you do this, you'll never ever have any problem like with networking, because remember the golden light: people value people who are valued by people who they value. So I think this basically ends my monologue. I have shared everything that I have applied and I've learned through my art of networking, and I'll be happy to take some questions now. Okay, so Viraj, I had no feedback at all. I was continuously talking, but was it good? Was the audio fine? Was everything all right? I'm glad, man. I'm glad. I'm happy the audience also stuck with it. Yeah, like I was impressed. Like it was 98 for the long time. I thought people might reduce in a bit, but I'm really happy that people did. Acha.
So,
So we could have got more people. You're saying?
yep, we have about 20 people watching on YouTube as well. So,
Oh,
I
nice,
gave a
nice,
lot of
nice. That's
people the
awesome.
YouTube link. Anyways, you guys can literally come up on stage. All you have to do is click on this event stage, and you'll see a raise your hand sort of a button. Just raise your hand, and then I'll take you on stage. Lone Wolf is requested.
रौनक भैया हेलो.
Hello, man. How are you, bro?
फाइन भैया. भैया मेरा
हाँ बोलो.
आपने जैसे बताया कि फर्स्ट यूएसपी इज वाई यू.
हाँ हाँ, सही है.
तो इसमें ऐसा आपने कहा है कि आपका कंटेंट डिलीवरी या फ्लो वो बहुत डिफरेंट होना चाहिए. तो हाउ
हम्म.
टू आइडेंटिफाई कि हम जो कंटेंट डिलीवर करना चाहते हैं रिस्पेक्ट
हम्म.
एनी फील्ड वो कैसे डिफरेंट हो, मतलब क्या यूनिक हम डाल सकते हैं, वो कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करें.
हाँ, तो अभी इसमें दो चीज है. एक तो यार एक तो आप जो मांग रहे हो किसी से, तो फॉर एग्जांपल अगर मैं पॉडकास्ट की बात करूं, तो एक मेरा यूएसपी ये होना ही होना चाहिए कि आई हैव टू बी कॉन्फिडेंट इन माय कॉन्वर्जेशन. मुझे अपने आप में इतना बिलीफ होना चाहिए कि चाहे कोई भी हो, मैं उसके साथ बात कर सकता हूँ. अगर उस चीज का कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है, तो अपने आप आपके कम्युनिकेशन में वो रिफ्लेक्ट होगा. और ये बहुत बार होता है. इवन व्हेन आई गेट, आई मीन आई हैव जस्ट सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टार्टेड टू गेट सम रिक्वेस्ट टू बी ऑन अदर पॉडकास्ट, बट उनकी कम्युनिकेशन में, उनकी डिलीवरी में बहुत साफ है कि उनको खुद अपने आप पे कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है, एंड दैट इज नॉट गुड. तो पहली बात यह है कि जो आप ऑफर कर रहे हो किसी और को एज अ कॉन्वर्जेशन, या फिर एज अ प्रोडक्ट, या फिर आपकी स्किल एज अ फ्रीलांसर, या फिर लाइक आपका बिजनेस पिच, वो एकदम सॉलिड होना चाहिए. तो वो एक एस्पेक्ट है वायु का. दूसरा एस्पेक्ट ये है कि आप लोगों के अटेंशन को कैसे ग्रैब एक इन वे कर सकते हो. तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट है, और ये आपकी राइटिंग में रिफ्लेक्ट होगी. दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड दैट पीपल हु स्पीक इंग्लिश वेरी वेल, यहाँ पे उनका एडवांटेज होता है, क्योंकि उनकी इंग्लिश बेसिक ही अच्छी है, तो दे कैन एक्सप्रेस देमसेल्व्स बेटर. अगर आपको इंग्लिश नहीं आता है, तो आप हिंदी में भी टाइप कर सकते हो, बट ये इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आप अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस कैसे करते हो. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई गिव यू वन ट्रिक दैट आई यूज विद अंकुर वारिको itself. Okay, so Ankur Warikoo had made a video on how to network or how to cold email or something, and he had used one line that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. एंड ये लाइन मेरे को बहुत ही बढ़िया लगा, तो मैंने ये लाइन आई यूज एज माई लाइक एज द लाइन ऑफ माई सब्जेक्ट इन द ईमेल. So the minute I use that line, one is I know that Ankur Warikoo himself likes the line क्योंकि उसने अपने वीडियो में यूज किया है, and second it also tells him that I have watched his video, so it does why you and why them instantly. So this is one hack that you can use, right? This is just one example in emails. There are thousands of ways of doing it, but ये चीज एक्सप्रेस करना इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आपके मैसेजिंग में या आपके आस्क में. अनदर वे यू कैन ऑल्सो डू इट इज जो आपका रिक्वेस्ट है वो थोड़ा थोड़ा डिफरेंट कैसे है, एंड लाइक दिस इज ऑल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट, राइट? if you want to network with really big people like Ankur Variko or something, you have to think like a businessman. You have to think like ये मेरा धंधा है और मेरे को ये बेचना है. तो if I'm a podcaster, I have to sell my conversation, and I have to sell my conversation hard, right? So for me, my pitches, I'm getting people to talk about failures. So you are extremely successful, but I have no interest in your success. I'm going to talk about all your mistakes and your failures, and that gets people's attention. Saying that, I've been interviewed so many times for my successes, but failure के बारे में किसी ने कभी भी नहीं पूछा है. तो ये मेरा USP है. Now you have to figure out what that is for you. एक हैक देता हूँ कि अगर आप जॉब के लिए कर रहे हो या फिर फ्रीलांसिंग के लिए कर रहे हो, वन वेरी गुड वे टू से व्हाई यू एंड व्हाई देम टुगेदर इज टू डू द वर्क फ्रॉम बिफोर. So suppose if you're a website designer and if you want to make a website for a company, you design the website first, send a few mockups, एक पेज बनाओ. how long will it take? दो तीन घंटे लगेंगे उसकी, तो इतना काम तो कर ही सकते हो, तो वो बना के उनको भेजो. So that sends immediate context, saying that okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. उसने काम भी किया है, he is good at what he does, and he has put in the work regardless of what the outcome is. I'm telling you, अगर तू ऐसा काम करेगा, you will definitely land that interview. You might not get the job, but you will land that interview for sure. So there are different ways of doing it, but आपके context के साथ जो भी तरीका फिट होता है उससे आप अप्लाई कर सकते हो.
Thank you, भैया.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
The day I start my podcast, I'll first of all I'll invite you.
अरे thank you so much, bro. Thank you.
Thank you, भैया.
Awesome. Sure. Get them up. Hey Ayushi, what's up?
Uh, Am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
you are. Yes,
Okay.
you are.
Well, thank you for sharing your experiences with us. I have two questions. First of
Hmm.
all, it's about uh, like the transactional loop. We don't want
Hmm.
it to be a transaction. We
Hmm.
want it to aftermath. We want to keep it going. But
Hmm.
after a
Hmm.
while, it becomes annoying. I myself find it very unjustified to just talk to someone when you have a need, but
Hmm.
it just become like a sticky, irritating mess if I'm trying aftermath to talk to a person. It's like I just blank out. What should I say next?
Okay. So first, I'm not completely in agreement with you, Ayushi. I think when see, okay, I'll use an interesting example to say it. Okay, imagine you go on a date with a guy, and the guy is good, he's fun, he's nice to talk to and all. But later on, every time you call him or every time you in a way like text him on WhatsApp or DM, he's not that interesting, right? And you were just not very interested in him, and you didn't have a very interesting vibe. So he's a good person, he's a nice person, but he's not interesting. Like the conversations that you have with him are not interesting. Automatically, when this guy messages you over and over again, you get annoyed. Why are you getting annoyed? Not because he's messaging you, but because he's not interesting enough, right? So a lot of times also the reason people get annoyed by you is not because you're always messaging them, but you are not understanding how to be interesting. Now, how to be interesting is a separate, complete different session of its own. I won't get into that right now. But what I will tell you, which helps is, and this is again like a more of like a learning of psychology, is that once you talk to somebody, once you have an opportunity to speak to somebody, or if you have somebody who's a content creator, so you've seen them speak, you have to sort of figure out what are the topics that they want to talk about, what are the topics that they like talking about. Like for example, every time I have an insight, like with Ankur Vargu, I reply to all his newsletters. The minute like his newsletter comes, I tweet about it and I reply after 5 minutes, because I like the content that he creates. I talk to him about books, I talk to him about personal finance, I talk to him about conversations that he likes talking about. On the other hand, if I'm talking to Prakhar, my vibe with him is very different. I can talk to him about anything at all. So then I won't necessarily ask him which book to read about psychology. I talk to him about jokes, about all sorts of stuff. So you have to figure out what vibe you have with that person and maintain that vibe. It's only when you change that vibe that now people get think that it's annoying, it's boring. He keeps texting me, right? If you're just like the example of a date, if you meet a super hot, interesting guy, you would love to keep texting him. It will not get annoying at all. In fact, you'll wait for his text, like his text messages, right? So same thing is like it's also with networking. Be interesting and learn how to get people interested in you. That is a lifelong skill that you have to learn.
Okay, it's about the relatability factor, if I'm right. Right.
Yeah, relatability also. And just another thing, in case if any of you guys have taken art of conversation, then you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. But one hidden aspect is, if you're talking to somebody who is young and who is successful, the advantage that what they really want from life is a little bit of fun, right? So you need to take a risk as well. At times I've seen people who are so overly sweet with their messages that it's only compliment after compliment after compliment. It gets boring. Take a little risk. Say something that is a little off or a little different, so that they remember you by. Of course, apply this with context. Don't offend people, but take a few risks in the conversation. It will help you a lot.
Okay. It just makes me go to my second question, which is
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel like I have been an antisocial person for a really
Hmm.
long while. So
Okay.
there, either I go out of the boundary or I stay
Huh.
really inside of the boundary, or while talking to someone.
Hmm.
While even composing my messages and all, I feel
Right.
that I pour it more than necessary. So
Hmm.
I cannot just have a control over it, I feel. So how to set up boundaries, like this is how much you should share and this is not how much you should share? Is there a way to differentiate that?
Okay. So one aspect. Okay. How old are you, Ayushi? If you don't mind me sharing, if you don't mind me asking.
19. I just turned
19.
19.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So you have, I mean, you've just entered your like the era where you have to have an active social life. So I don't think you should worry about that. If you had heard me when I was like I was 17, you would have never thought I would have been a podcaster. So you should not keep that in your mind at all. It doesn't matter at all. Like it's not even like it should not even be like a thought in your head, right? So first get that outside your head. Secondly, the other aspect is how much to share. Now this is a lifelong like thing that we learn with on how to socialize with people, and trial and error is honestly the only way. But from what I sense by the way you're speaking, you are talking about it more with respect to online messaging or online conversations, either on text or on call or something. My suggestion would be, of course right now it's COVID and also we can't do much, but eventually when things go like back to normal, learn how to socialize in the physical world. See, the reason for that is 57% of I think 52% of communication is your body language, and around 40% is non-verbal communication, and only 7% is your actual words that you use. So when you speak to somebody in person and you feel like you've crossed a boundary, there is so much more feedback that you are getting from them that will help you to know whether I should say more or whether I should say less. When you're speaking to somebody on text, no, I understand where you're coming from, because you don't have data, you don't have feedback, right? You have only their words to understand, and that takes time to understand. So if you want to learn how to talk to people better and how to maintain your social boundaries, you will only learn that skill like in the physical world, or worst to worst in actual conversations in on voice, not on text. Text messaging is a bad idea. That is not the way to to learn communication, because it has zero feedback of context. So if you want to learn this, the best bet is like actually talk to people like in the physical world, or call people, and over time you'll understand that on your own. It's not that tough.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's really encouraged me to look at it in a different perspective. It means a lot. Thank you.
Most welcome, Amishi. Most welcome. Sure, sure. If there's like a question at the chat also, that's you can ask me. I'll take that up as well. Okay, fine, fine. We have 95 people. I'm so happy, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, 96 people. That's a good retention. I'm impressed. Wow, man, that's super. I think Harish is also there in the audience, is it? Yeah, nice, nice, nice.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, man.
Yeah. So I understood what you said about the first email, but
Hmm.
in case the person doesn't respond to the first email, how do we
Hmm.
go about the follow-up email or
Hmm.
the
Oh,
call or whatever?
That's a good question, and in fact, I'm so happy because I almost forgot about it. So here there are two answers to this, right? One is there are a few tools. For some reason, I can't remember the name, but there are a lot of email tools which you can add to your Gmail inbox, which help you to know whether your emails have been read or no. So that is the first thing to do, right? You have to implement that hack so that you know whether someone's read your email. If they have not read your email, then be patient with it. Then don't be in a rush to come to like any conclusion that my first email has not been responded or not worked out or something. Be a little a bit patient and then see what you want to do next. Maybe also check if you've emailed on the right email ID. Sometimes the email IDs which you use are info at whatever company and all, and that's not the right email ID to use. So that is one answer. Second is, if in case they have read the email and not responded, then honestly, bro, it's a hard pill to swallow, but most likely they're not interested in your offer. Because see, here's the deal, right? And this is again like important lesson in any kind of persuasion, like in psychology, that no is a better answer than no answer, right? So if he has an objection, if he had an objection and he replies to you saying that like sorry, this is not possible, that's a good sign, because now you at least he took the effort out to respond to you. But if somebody has read your entire mail and they have not responded to you, most likely I would say move on. It is a numbers game. A lot of people are not going to respond to you, and that's just the way it is. You can probably try after a few months again or something, but don't try to pester, because they're really genuinely not interested. It's like being just on read on someone's WhatsApp, right? It's not a nice feeling. So just
Yeah.
move on from that.
Also, the thing about being patient, like you said
Hmm.
about being patient if they have
Hmm.
not seen the mail.
Hmm.
So like how long does someone wait?
Hmm. Okay,
Like
so how long? Now it's tricky to answer because it's very much it's dependent on who you're talking to. So if you're talking to somebody who's wealthy, and the reason I'm using wealth as as a metric is because when people, there's almost nobody who I know who's earned a lot of money but does not have the value of time, because as you start earning money, time becomes exponentially more important. So if you're talking to somebody who's earned wealth or who's in the startup space or something, you have to be ridiculously patient. That is just no. I mean, I can't give you any limit. It might take 6 months also. But if you're really if they're important to you, if you want to reach out to them, just be patient, right? If they're not from that space, if they're influencers or something, then you can take a guess. Maybe like a month or two would be like I think a good limit. Also, be in mind of their responses. See, if somebody is not agreeing to your request, but they are constantly responding to you, that means they see value in you, right? If they are responding to you well, that means in the three forms of USP which we spoke, why you and why them is already is marked well. The why now is not there. So if somebody is constantly responding to you but not agreeing to your request, you have to add urgency in your message, so that might convince them. But if somebody is completely ignoring you and not responding at all, that's when, like, then whether it's 1 week or 1 month, it's time to move on. So for me, it's not about time, but it's about the number of responses. If someone's responding, you should be courteous and respond. If they are not responding, take a hint and move on.
yeah, yeah. All right, got it. And
Super.
also one thing,
Hmm.
if you want to reach out to someone,
Uh,
how do you get access to their contact or email or whatever the communication line is?
Huh. So now, see, there are a lot of tools that you can figure out people's emails from. I don't know which are still applicable and which are not. You'll have to just, I think, you'll have to do a search for that. But sometimes email is not the best idea, because unless you are not sure that the person who you're reaching out to is somebody who is active on their email or who's reading their emails. Like I think very often they are not reading their own emails. It's like someone on the team who's reading the emails. So email is not the best idea. The best thing that you can do is either Instagram or Twitter. Another interesting point here is that when you're choosing a platform to, in a way, like say reach out to somebody, if they are not very big, because if they are very big, then they'll probably be immune to this thing. But if they are not very big, no, try to choose a platform where your relative growth is very high. So for example, having 800 900 followers on Twitter is exponentially more valuable than having 2-3 thousand followers on Instagram, or even more than that, right? Because Instagram in general has more followers and all. So choose the platform where you can show competence. That is why if I reach out to someone like on Twitter, it's very rare for them to say no, because they see my that on this platform I'm doing well, right? Like the way you can think of it is that the advantage of like a social media is that every post that you have is like a certain identity of yourself. So you're allowing the other person to go and check his content. So now when I reach out to someone on Instagram, if they come to my bio, they see Ankur Warikoo and they see Sid and and they see Prakhar, and they know that I'm somebody of value. But to reach to that point, find a platform which play where you can play on your front foot. For me, like in a way, Twitter is my front foot. For you, it might be Instagram. For you, it might be TikTok. You never know. So find a platform that plays on your front foot and use that platform better.
All right, all right. Nice talking to you. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Super, super. You're welcome.
Yeah, two people have requested to ask questions. I'll take you guys on stage, but before that, someone has asked on the chat, can you give advice on how to build connections on LinkedIn?
Okay, so honestly, bro, I have not used a lot of it. I have very strong opinions like of the platform, and I don't want to use like any kind of profanity over here, so I won't get into that. But there are a lot of flaws with like with the platform, because it's a lot of pretense. And if you try to connect with somebody of real value, most likely they will not give a lot of like a lot of importance to that platform, unless you are purely looking at a job perspective. If your only intention is to get a job with somebody, then maybe LinkedIn might be for you because of the tools which are available like on that platform. But the answer to grow on that platform is be very there. In fact, it becomes even more important to have extremely good, nice, honest content, because on LinkedIn you see so much dishonesty, like it's not even funny. Most people who write on LinkedIn are just not good at what they do, right? So if you want to grow on LinkedIn, it is very very important to post interesting posts, to show your skills which you're good at, and to meaningfully, like it's just the same as any other platform, but on LinkedIn it's like an active resume. So make sure that all your posts are insightful, there's no incorrect, there are no red signs in it, and that should help you. But having said that, I would suggest use LinkedIn only if you're only want to interested in a way getting a job, or you're interested in the very deep levels of equity investments and personal finance, because that is very active on LinkedIn. But if for any other reason, if you want to connect to people, I would recommend Instagram or Twitter, because everyone has an account on these platforms, and LinkedIn just becomes a little fake sometimes.
Yep, just for the record, I agree. Uh, I'll just get Flash Fireball on the stage. Yep, he's here.
What's up, Flash?
Hello, Ronny, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Bolo.
So my question to you is that how do
Hmm.
we win confidence? Because I'm making stand-up videos, but
Hmm.
I at
Hmm.
times lose my confidence. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so
Okay,
how
okay.
do
So,
we?
bro, this is a very, very important question, but it is an entire session of its own. So I will give you an answer, but just know that it is not a holistic answer. If you want a holistic answer, then like we can connect offline, and then we can innovate, like talk about this. But confidence, is the way I would put it, is that confidence, like especially in your domain of stand up and all, is it's like compound interest on competence. So when you start getting good at something, you start believing that you can get good at anything if you try it. So the idea is, I think there's some echo coming.
Oh,
Okay. So I'll just repeat what I was saying, was that the way to think of any kind of confidence is that it is a compound interest on competence. The minute you start getting good at something, you start believing that you can get good at anything. So the only way to build raw confidence, apart from all nonsense that all these motivational speakers talk about, all of that nonsense does not work. So don't follow any of that advice. The only thing that you have to focus on is find one area that you can get very good at. The minute you do that, no, your brain will automatically start believing in itself that, okay, I could do something well, so what's to say that I can't do something else? For example, like if I take an example of my life, two things that I have never done but I'm always fascinated by is stand-up comedy and dancing. And I think I'll be bad at both, right? But of the two of them, I think stand-up comedy would be something that I can handle. So suppose I want to build confidence as a dancer, it's a better idea for me to for me to first go and do like a set on stand-up comedy, because when I do a set of comedy, I might, if I do it reasonably well also, I can tell myself that, look, Ronak, you never thought that you were good at comedy, but you did a good job. So what's to say that you can't be a good dancer? And that builds that starting of confidence, which then eventually moves on. So that is the first important aspect of confidence, which is self-confidence. The other aspect is that confidence is not a noun. Even though English language uses confidence as a noun, if you understand it deeply, it's not a noun, it's a verb. People are not, it's not that they have confidence or they don't have they or they don't have confidence, they behave with confidence. So a lot of times confidence is about behavior. It's about how your body language is, how your tonality is, how strongly you speak in front of somebody, because we judge ourselves through the lens of other people. So the way somebody else looks at you will be the way you look at yourself. So very often, if you're starting from zero in your confidence journey, and like, believe me, I have as well, the way to start off is to fake your confidence. Act like you're confident, even if you're not, even if you're full of insecurities internally, like we all are. Act like you're very confident. People will start responding to you in a way that they think you're confident, and that will actually make you confident. So it's very in a way, it's quite counterintuitive, but this is the reality of confidence. It's based on two things. One is how good you are at something, which is like a lifelong improvement thing, and second is how often can you behave confidence. So remember, confidence is not something that you have or you don't have, it is what you do, it's behavior. So if you keep these two things in mind, I think you won't have a problem.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Most welcome, bro, most welcome.
There's one question in the chat of YouTube. It says how
Okay.
to maintain that relationship after you got what you want. I'll just refrain it. Uh, what message should I send you after this session once the whole work is done?
So I mean, he's asking for me or he's asking like a general question?
Nah, I just reframed it. Now that I have texted you and got this event done, what should I
uh
text you tonight after the event is done?
Acha, that way. Okay. So see, bro, it's not so much about. I mean, you should not get too specific with these things, because at the end of the day, any kind of communication is a soft skill. It's not a hard skill, and it should be a soft skill in its own, like in its entirety, right? So it's not about what I should message you, what I should not message you. It's very much dependent on how you view me as a person. So if you are to reach out to me, what about the session intrigued you a little bit? I think that's a great starting point, so don't just come and message, wow, on a good session, you know uh, you can also, like, just tell me something that you enjoyed a lot about it, so that it gives me context that, okay, this is why he enjoyed it, so you took out the time to express exactly why you enjoyed it, right? So like this is one way of doing it. Now let's say if you want to follow up with me after a week. Okay, after a week, now it doesn't have to be even related to like to this entire session. It might be, oh, Ronak, I remember this, like you had the session, and why would you why not have another session on confidence? Just like hypothetically, I might not say yes, but that doesn't matter. And now you've given a little more context. Now let's say you want to reach out to me after a month, which is now it's very likely for me to forget about this event at all. So there, I think you should reach out to me for something completely different, right? Which is not related to, like, it can be a joke, it can be a meme, it can be like a book recommendation, because anyone who knows, like, they know I read a lot of books, like my Twitter is full of it. So anything to do with that, right? It's just about applying context and showing people that you are interested in them. So if you show me that you're interested in me, then that's enough to maintain the relationship, at least to a certain extent.
Yep. I'll get Adityaphobia on stage
Sure.
so that he can ask a question. Yep. Hey, Aditya.
What's
Hi,
up, Aditya?
really helpful session. I needed this.
Awesome.
My question is about connecting to the person for the first time. Like, what should the first message be? I've read two conflicting strategies.
Okay.
Like, one says that do not dive right into it, focus on initiating a conversation. And one says that we should tell them in the first message who we are, where we got their number from, and what we expect from them. So which one is the right one?
Okay, this is okay. I'm glad. This is an interesting question, actually. And it is a delusion that even I was in for some time. Again, just like most things, you have to apply this like with context. The way I would split it is based on a platform. Right now, if you think of emailing, right? Emailing is very often it's like a digital letter. So you have to send it, and ideally you don't want too much back and forth with email, because emails are like a very heavy in terms of their use, yeah, right? So like it's work, it's professional, like all of that. It's not like a frequent thing. So if you're sending an email as your first message, ideally you want to lay everything out. You want to be very clear in what you want from them, what you're looking out for them, and that is where your clear articulation it matters, because you have to have all your three USPs: why you, why them, and why now. And you have to have a clear ask. It is a challenge, right? And you have to, like, in a way, stand up to that challenge. That's the idea. That's why you can reach out to people, and most people can't, right? So if it's email, you want to lay everything down. If it is a different platform, let's say it's something like Instagram, or something like Twitter, you don't want to go straight for the kill. There you want to take your time and warm people up, because this is a platform that most of us use multiple times a day, and we like frequency over there. So there, being very heavy with your requests feels like, yeah, I don't want to read this. And this also happens because if you send me an Instagram message, right, and you send a very long message, most likely, and I know this because I also do it, I will just not read it, because yeah, I'm not interested in actually going through all the text. I'm here to chill a little bit. So understand the flavor of the platform. Like very often what you write in your message is dependent on the medium of the message. So if it is email, and if it's professional, and if that is your choice for whatever reason, then lay everything down. But if it's not, if it's Instagram, Twitter, or WhatsApp, then start by like some general conversation, warm people up a little bit, and then go for the ask.
Okay, that is smart. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
You're welcome.
Cool. There are a few questions in the chat as well.
Okay.
In networking, do your accomplishments matter?
Do your account placements, in the sense?
Accomplishments.
Accomplishments. Okay, yes, your accomplishments do matter, but not in quantity, in quality. Because all of you guys are young, and if you were 30 years old, I don't think you should be listening to me on networking, right? So you guys are all young, and no one expects you to have a lot of accomplishments unless you're some kind of prodigy. So don't worry about quantity. Make sure you have one very bold accomplishment, and more than that, learn how to express it well. See, this is again a hard truth of life that colleges don't want to tell you, right? That people who can express themselves better have a bigger advantage over people who are good at what they do but don't know how to express themselves. So learning how to express yourself will always be more important than having many achievements. It's like the classic case of like the person who puts all the effort and makes the presentation, but one guy who's very confident will come and give the presentation and get all the attention. This is real life. This does happen in real life, right? So don't worry about how many accomplishments you have. Just make sure you have one thing that's rather interesting, and it doesn't even have to be an accomplishment. Like bro, think about me. I have had no accomplishment in my life. Like still I could reach out to people, but I can express myself well. So I can look into somebody's eyes and I can tell them, no matter who they are, that I'll have a brilliant conversation with you, even if I know nothing about you and you know nothing about me. So have that one bold stroke that you can play, and play that stroke well. So always expressing your accomplishment is, at least in this context, more important than having like an actual accomplishment.
Yeah, makes sense. Another question that has come is how to deal with anxiousness while speaking to someone big, and what do you do when your mind goes blank?
Yeah, wow, this is so interesting, bro. I can go on and on and on and talking about this topic. In fact, if you guys are interested, I can have another session like on communication and confidence. But the way to deal with anxiety when you're talking to someone big, and this is like a tip that I got from Prakhar itself. If they're very successful and you're very nervous now just by their presence, in your head, just imagine them taking a dump. Just imagine them taking a shit, right? I know it sounds weird, it sounds crazy, it sounds absolutely out there, but just imagine it for a minute. You know what happens, right? We all take a shit every day, every single morning. We have to. We're all like, they're all human beings. The minute you do that, you lift them off that high pedestal, that, oh sir, you're so big, you're so great, I need your approval. People hate being spoken to like that. It is irritating, dude. No one likes it, no matter how successful they are. That's why even with Ankur Wariko also, I didn't call him sir, I called him Ankur. If I talk about him, I still use the word sir, but when I'm talking to him, I'll say Ankur, because he doesn't like being used the word sir. It makes people feel weird, right? So like very often the reason you're very nervous is because you're putting them on a very high pedestal. The idea is to get them off the pedestal, and the simplest way is imagine them taking a shit. Like, smash the hell out of that pedestal, you won't think of him as so, like something so scary. That's one aspect of the like of the answer. The other element is, let's say something happens and you still get nervous, right? It still happens at times. One hack, which is more, I would say, like a hack of the body, is just stop speaking, stop whatever it is that you're there, like in the moment, and just focus on your breath. Just focus on your breath. I know this sounds like spiritual advice, but that's not what this is. It's very biological. Just take a minute and only focus on your breath. See, remember one thing, right? Focusing on your breath is a way to tell your body and your mind to get in control, because your breathing is what is keeping you alive. So your mind and your body and your brain is programmed in such a way that when breath is is the matter in context, everything else doesn't matter. So they're only going to focus on your breath, right? Which is why even in meditation they ask you to like also focus on your breath. Which is why, on a side note, like when people learn how to box, if anyone has any experience like in martial arts, they always tell you that try to sync your your punches with your breath, because when you focus on your breath you get your body under your control. So any point of time, whether you're on stage, whether you're talking to hundreds of people at the same time, if you ever get nervous, take a step back, stop whatever it is that you're doing, and focus on yourself, on one breath, just one breath ke liye, only think about that for a minute. All your nervousness will instantly vanish, and you'll be able to start fresh. Because very often the reason we get nervous is not because of what made us nervous, but because we are thinking about the nervousness. So for example, if I'm talking to 88, 89 people over here, and let's say I make a mistake, right? That mistake is really not that important. I can go and correct it, but I will start thinking about that mistake. That, oh my god, 88 people saw I made a mistake. Shit, I'm screwed, I'm screwed. And that's when I get nervous. So the idea is to break that loop of instant overthinking and say, no problem, I'm going to focus on my breath and start fresh. And once you do that, all the nervousness will go away instantly.
Was asked a question about offline net. One thing, how much more time do you have?
No, we can go for around 10 minutes more, I think.
Cool.
Are
So,
there a lot of questions? I'm enjoying the questions, so we can go longer. But in case you guys have some other plan, then I don't know.
let's just take a speaker up and then we can decide how long we will go after that.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure, man, sure.
Yeah. Naman
86 people,
21.
guys. Still, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super happy.
Add another 15 people on YouTube. Yeah. Naman is here.
What's up, Naman?
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi Ronak. Thanks for this session. I really needed this.
Awesome.
So my question is short. It's like, how do we get to know the people we want to network with? I mean, how do we find the right people we want to network and build a network with?
How do you find the right people, bro? Honestly, that's a matter of choice. No, I think it's not something. I mean, I can't really help you out with that, because it depends on what your intention is. So, what is it that you want from life in general, right? It all depends on that. If you want a job, then you have to go to people who can provide jobs, who are entrepreneurs and founders and like owners of businesses. If you are an entrepreneur and you want to like pitch your startup, then you need to in a way network with VCs. And if you're a podcaster like me, then you need to in a way network with influencers and interesting people to talk to. So it depends a lot on what it is that you want from your endeavor, and based on that, find the right people. What I will suggest is that again, I don't mean to offend anyone over here, but the problem is, I think it's more about choosing who not to approach than to choose who to approach. And what I have noticed is that generally people who are very famous influencers, or who think of themselves as influencers, they are very insecure about their audiences, which is why they feel like everyone's out to get them. So if you approach an influencer, or if you approach somebody who has a very high following on social media, they'll first thing that they'll think is that, okay, this guy is trying to milk me of my following, right? Which is why it becomes like a bit of hesitancy. So if you're starting to like build your network from scratch, I would say stay away from influencers, because I mean, from whatever experience I've had in that world, it's just very toxic, bro, and unnecessary in their toxicity and their insecurity. It will make you feel incompetent. So when you're starting to network with people who have solid value and who are not insecure about, oh, मेरे इतने सारे followers है, वो मेरा ले वो ऐसा मेरा ले जाएगा तो मैं क्या करूँगा? Like you want to stay away from all that nonsense, at least for a bit, right? At least until you are in a way secure in your own art form, and then like eventually like you can get to that. So it's more about selecting who not to approach than who to approach, because who to approach is completely your choice.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you, Ronak. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome, Naman.
Cool. There's one question that has come in. It says,
Yeah.
It's regarding offline networking. So he asks,
Okay.
how does eye contact matter in these conversations?
Oh, eye contact matters like crazy. It's gold. I think eye contact is one of the most important things. Um, Again, this is a classic rule for any conversation. It's not only about networking. Ultimately, just like the way we started off, right? It's about having meaningful interactions and meaningful conversations with people. And when you look into somebody's eyes, it makes you feel like they can trust you and you trust them, and which is very very important because it's a sign of being comfortable with yourself. Most people don't look at eyes, right? If you're very aware of yourself also, like you'll see that we look at people's faces, the nose, the mouth, the outline of the face. We don't look directly into somebody's eyes because it's a little confrontational, and it requires you to be very comfortable with yourself and everything that's happening around you. So if you can do it, if you can pull it off, great. But having said that, you need to keep in mind when not to do it. Sometimes it might get too confrontational, like especially if you're going and pitching to like an elderly gentleman, then you don't want to look directly into their eyes because they might feel like he's being a little arrogant or something. So keep those things in mind. But just remember that I think also honestly eye contact is more a thing to improve your social life, so your friend circles, your dating, your relationships, all of that stuff. It's gold for all these things. If you're on a date with a girl and you're looking directly into her eyes and you're talking, that's going to be gold, right? But in other aspects of networking, like with very rich and elderly people and all, don't go too much into it. Just go on and off. So I would say, when you want to, like for example, I'll give you in an instance, right? So generally, if you're pitching a startup, the last slide of your startup is very very important because you've just made the ask of how much capital you want to raise, and then you want one good way to end. So when you're having that one punchline that you just want to slam, there you look into somebody's eyes. But then in general, when you're just again answering their objections, like and their questions, you can look around, look at the slide, and then be a little more calmer and relaxed. So learn when to look into somebody's eyes and when not to. That will come only with practice. But keep in mind, don't continuously look into somebody's eyes. That might make things a little complicated.
Someone has also asked how to get the social proof of someone if you haven't
Hmm.
networked with anyone big before. Start small
No,
and
so
then go for the big fishes, or vice
yeah,
versa.
yeah, yeah. No, if see, this is that there is no easy answer to this, right? Initially, you have to put in the work, because when you are a nobody, why should anybody care about you, right? So you have to start very intelligently, and you have to put in the hard work first. So getting your when I started my initial episodes of my podcast are with my school friends, and also it's quite average in that sense. So it is something that you have to go through. You have to put in the work and the reps of doing this. One thing that you should keep in mind is that you should be aware of not only who you are interested in, but who they are interested in as well. So, for example, like in the case of Prakhar, I know he has a friend called Vinamra, right? He also has his own YouTube channel. Now, I connected with Vinamra very early on. So now that I've had him like on the channel, of course me and Prakhar eventually had our own dynamic. But had that not happened also, I could use Vinamra as social proof to get Prakhar, because he knows that Asha Vinamra is gone. So at least if he must have agreed, then there must be some reason why he's agreed, right? So find your way, start small, like Virat said. But having said that, bro, at the end of the day, it's about the reps, right? So if you're starting from scratch, anything is going to be hard. A podcast, a startup, a job, everything's going to be tough. So just get ready for that and realize that once the social proof flywheel kicks in, things get remarkably easy. So initially you have to put in the work, and that's the idea anyways, right? So that's an answer.
Yeah. Also, Vinamra
Hmm.
is coming on BlueLearn next week, I guess. So you guys can just stay tuned.
Oh, that's great. He's talking about writing.
Uh, I'm not sure what he's talking about. I'll have
Oh,
to
cool. I'll
check.
be there. I had a session with him yesterday only on like on Twitter Spaces. So
Uh,
yeah, awesome.
that's really cool. One question that has come in is
Hmm.
how to
Hmm.
learn to express ourselves.
How to learn to express yourself. Again, this is like another session of its own. But learning to express yourself is a function of two things. One is being good in the language. Because here I'm assuming we're not talking about public speaking, like a huge, like a public speech or something, because that is a different skill set of its own. That requires enormous amounts of like basic confidence. But we won't enter that domain right now. For now, to be able to express yourself well, one is you need to know the language very well. This is why I'm saying guys, English is important, right? I'm sorry if it's harsh, but English matters. It is the language we talk in, and you have to build that skill at some point or the other. If you're not good at English, most of what I'm saying is not going to make any sense to you. Like if you're not good at English, maybe what I said you might not have even understood in the last 1 hour. Who knows, you know? But I have to talk in English because it's the only one that everybody can understand. अगर मैं हिंदी में अगर मैं हिंदी में बात करूंगा तो फिर maybe some people might not get it, right? So one is improving your language skills, which is like a lifelong thing. The other thing is being very comfortable with yourself. A lot of times the reason why people are not able to express themselves is because I can see by the words that they use, or the compliments that they give people, they are trying to wrap up the main idea. They are not very comfortable saying that, this is what I want, or here is what I'm good at, or this is something that I have to offer to you. They are a little afraid, and that is basic fear, right? So you have to desensitize yourself from what the other person might say. One tip I'll tell you for this is, again, just to like use like an analogy of dating and relationships, is that, remember, no matter who you're networking with, no matter who you're talking to, people don't reject people. People can only reject conversations. So even if somebody rejects you, if you're afraid of someone rejecting you, they're not rejecting you. They don't know enough about you to reject you like holistically, right? They're only rejecting the interaction that you had with them. So when you think of it in this way, you realize there's not that much pressure that you need to really worry about. And if you take the pressure off, no, then you will naturally speak better. Because see, expressing yourself well is not about, like I said, like words and vocabulary and all. It's just about being very clear in what you want and being comfortable with expressing what you want. A lot of times people are just anxious, they're afraid, right? And don't be afraid. Like if you get rejected, you get rejected, big deal, it doesn't matter. They're not rejecting you, they're only rejecting the interaction that they had with you, which you will always get another shot at. So I think that should answer your question.
Absolutely. Another 2 minutes. Should we take one last question?
Yeah, sure, we can go.
All right. The last question is how much the platform matters for networking, and how to choose which platform to choose for which person. I think you
Yeah,
answered
it
it in the
does.
session as well.
Yeah, it does matter. I just answered again. Ideally, if see it, platform choice, it depends on what you think the person uses most often, right? So I knew that, like Ankur Bhargav opens all his emails because he's expressed that. I knew Prakhar responds to his DMs because he said that, right? So you have to understand that what is the platform that the other person is more comfortable with. You have to learn to play their game first. If you don't, if you want to talk to Virat Kohli, you have to start by talking about cricket, right? Then you can eventually get him to play your game. So first understand what game your guest or your person, your individual is playing, and play that game. So I think platform choice is very much associated to the platform that your guest or the individual who you want to connect with is most comfortable using. Yeah, we have one request. We can take that. Yeah, sure, sure. I can't see anyone else on stage.
Hi, I'm Tanuj. Uh,
Hey,
so
Tanuj.
previously, before 2 months, I had a conversation with my senior. So
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about referrals. So while approaching to referral, should we
Mm-hmm.
call him as sir, or we should use his name? Because on his point of view, what he's saying that as they are working in good companies like Google or Microsoft, they might be demanding for respect. On other side, the conversation was like, even they are also human, they will also like to be friendly. So I would
Mm.
like to get clarified.
Okay, bro, honestly, the one thing that I have absolutely zero experience in is approaching for jobs, because I've never done that, honestly. So I don't know how that entire game works. But for any other context, whether you want to meet somebody for advice, as mentorship, as like a venture capitalist, all of those things, in my experience, people don't like being called sir unless they are in the academic field. See, you know what happens is, अगर कोई टीचर है, प्रोफेसर है, जो academic field में है ना, तो again, don't get offended, but it is a very status driven thing. So their entire identity is based on being called professor, sir, doctor, all of that things, right? So in those contexts, if you're talking to someone who's an expert in academia, then probably use the like the correct salutation, like sir or ma'am or whatever. But in most other contexts, if somebody is an entrepreneur or like a venture capitalist or a very successful YouTuber or something, they're just like you, they're just like me. They're just they are they've just gotten very good at what they do, and they like being treated like actual human beings. So I would refrain from using sir or ma'am, and definitely do not use sir/ma'am. That is an absolute no-no. That tells me that you have not even gone through the effort of knowing what gender I am. So वो तो कभी भी मत करना. Don't ever do that. If you're not sure, then just use their name, or use something else. But do not use sir/ma'am. That's a horrible way to do it.
Thanks. Is it a good idea of just saying hi and starting with the conversation?
Just saying hi and starting with a conversation. Yeah, but use their name. So say, for example, hey Raunak, blah 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 blah. You can start that way. Don't just start hi. Hi is a little too informal. Hey is a better way. Hey and then the next name.
Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
All right, let's now just end the event.
Sure.
Just one last question. You mentioned that you're an avid reader as well. So, just one book that you're reading currently, and one book that you'd suggest the audience to definitely check out. A must-read sort of.
Bro, I am so bad at giving book recommendations because I think books should follow your own curiosity. So I don't know what I should recommend. But what I will tell you, I'll tell you one book that I'm reading right now, which I plan to read is The Origin of the Species, by Charles Darwin, because I'm very
Whoa.
fascinated by the whole space of evolutionary psychology. So that is one book that I'm just going to get into. But what I will not give you a book recommendation, but I will share something that has been very game changing for me. If anyone follows me on like on Twitter, they'll also know that the best way to think of any book is that a book is a library of ideas, of thoughts, of concepts, right? Don't read them to remember them or to mug them up or to just have them at the back of your head. Read it to access it and know that at any point of time, if you want to read it again, if you want to access those ideas again, they are there with you. So read books with that very light way that अच्छा ठीक है चलो ये interesting है तो मैं ये पढ़ूंगा, अगर फिर इसमें interest नहीं है तो I'll read something else. Be very casual, be very free flowing with your curiosity, and don't get into this consistency loop that I bought a book so I have to read it. That loop never ends, and I have suffered in that a lot. So that's what I can leave you with.
All right, cool. I'd just like to say thanks for coming, man. People seem to have absolutely loved it. The no mic section is just full with Raunak is so good and all.
I'm glad, bro. I'm glad. And if you ever want to do some other session like this again, I think this was good. I love your audience. They're so retentive. I've never seen this response on any other community. So if you have any other things that you'd like me to take a session on, that'll be great.
Absolutely. There have been suggestions कि रौनक को इसके लिए बुलाओ, रौनक को उसके लिए बुलाओ already.
Awesome.
I'll definitely try and ping you on WhatsApp or something. In the meanwhile,
For sure.
I've put Raunak's Twitter and YouTube channels link in the chat. So go there if you like the session. Go there, follow him, subscribe to
Yeah,
his channel.
please, guys. If you guys could, I'm at I think 890 subscribers or something. If you guys could get me to like 1,000, that'll be great.
Yeah, guys, just get him to 1,000. Subscribe from all the 4-5 accounts that you have. मम्मी के account से कर दो, पापा के account से कर दो. Just do it.
Thanks a lot.
But yeah, thanks for coming, man. Absolutely loved it. Would love to have you once again.
Yeah, sure.
Just
Also, Viraj, where is this YouTube video that you've done? Like it's stored on YouTube, right? So, like on which channel is it?
it's on BlueLearn's channel. I'll send you on WhatsApp the link.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Yep.
I think this was a great session. I think it was some of my best work as well. So I'm very impressed.
Yeah, there's a slight echo in the in the beginning, like 30 seconds, but
No issues, no
the
issues.
rest of the video is pretty cool.
Fantastic.
All right, man. I think I should close the stage now. And once again, thanks for coming. Absolutely loved it.
My pleasure.
Goodbye,
My
guys.
pleasure. You guys have been a phenomenal audience, guys. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, take care. Goodbye.